Okay, I've been seeing this question literally everywhere lately. In the comments, in groups, from parents I know and love, everybody's asking me the same thing. Is a Disney vacation just too expensive now? And look, I get it. I pulled the numbers for this video, and I even had a moment myself where I sat back and was like, that's kind of crazy. For a family of four, 5 nights, hotels, tickets, and even food, you're looking at roughly $5,000 to $7,000, and that's a car payment for some families that are out there. But here's the thing: the takes I keep seeing are either full outrage, Disney is evil, they're robbing us, boycott literally everything they do, or full defense, it's worth every penny. Stop complaining. The magic is priceless. Both these takes are, in my opinion, honestly boring, and it makes it kind of difficult for someone to make an educated decision on whether or not you should actually book the trip. So today I'm just going to tell you what exactly I think. As a Disney dad, as someone who genuinely loves this company and has a real budget with real kids and real opinions about where all of this is actually going. Is Disney pricing out families forever? Here's my honest answer. All right, so let me just walk you through what's actually happened to the Disney prices, because I think most people don't realize how dramatic the shift has been. When Magic Kingdom opened in 1971, a ticket cost $3.50. Now, most of the rides costed extra on top of that back then, so it's not a perfect comparison, but if you just adjust that for inflation, you'd expect to be paying around $28 to $30 of equivalent rise. But the actual peak price in 2025 was up $209 per person for one day. Yeah. That's kind of crazy. Adjusted for inflation, Disney tickets should cost around $30. They cost upwards of $209 though. That's roughly 7 times what inflation alone would have predicted. It's not just keeping pace with cost, that's fundamentally a decision about who Disney is for. Now, I want to be fair here. The Disney of 1971 and the Disney of 2025 are genuinely completely different products. In 1971, there was one park with a handful of rides. Today, you've got 4 full theme parks, 2 water parks, 30 resort hotels, Trons, Guardians of the Galaxy, Star Wars Galaxy X. The product has gotten significantly better and bigger. The Disney experience in 2025 is genuinely a lot bigger than what it was in 1971, so some price increase is completely reasonable. But here's where it gets kind of hard to defend. In the last 10 years alone, between 2015 and 2025, the same highest price single day ticket went up nearly 100%. Inflation over that same time period was about 30%. So the product didn't double in quality, the price just doubled. And it's not just tickets. FastPass, the free line skip system that everyone loved, I used to love running to those machines to try to get those tickets out, is gone. Replaced by Lightning Lane, which costs up to $40 per person per day on top of your ticket price. Free airport shuttles from Disney hotels, a thing of the past. Free dining plans, gone for years, except on very rare occasions. Extra magic hours for all resort guests, replaced by premium version that only works if you're staying at a deluxe hotel that costs over $1,000 a night. Prices went up and included value went down. That combination is not a match made in heaven, and it's making people genuinely angry. And honestly, that anger is completely fair. Disney's own CFO said in an earnings call that the lower income guests are feeling stress from the price, which is a very corporate way of saying, yeah, we know that the pricing is kind of pricing people out, and that came from inside their own buildings. So the numbers are real and the frustration is very much so valid. But here's where I want to show you something that most people covering this story are completely skipping over. Because Disney is doing something with their pricing strategy that actually works in your favor if you understand it. This is part of the conversation that I think completely gets ignored. Disney's pricing has a nickname among analysts. They call it the Kohl's model. And once I understood this, it changed how I look at the whole situation. Kohl's, the department store, which everyone basically knows, is famous for having these insane listed prices that almost nobody ever actually pays. Everything is always on sale. The $80 shirt is perpetually marked down to $32. The high sticker price exists purely to make the discount feel like a win. You leave thinking you got a deal even though the $32 was always the real price of the dang t-shirt. Disney is doing pretty much the exact same thing here. In summer of 2025, Disney offered some of the deepest resort discounts in upwards of 6 years. Packages upwards of $250 off a night. That made it one of the most affordable Disney trip windows since before the pandemic in 2020. The sticker price of a Disney vacation is almost never the real price here. Disney runs package deals, seasonal discounts, room promos, ticket bundles consistently over a year's time. The family that books through a Disney travel agent uses a crowd calendar, goes in off-peak window times, and stacks the current promotions, can even cut upwards of $7,000 baseline trip by significant amounts. There are two Disney price realities here. The scary number that they advertise and the actual number that smart families typically pay. The gap between those two is often very real and very different. And there's the dynamic pricing model that comes this year in 2026. Disney confirmed it. It's the airline style of pricing where cost changes based on demand. Now, I know that sounds terrifying, but look at what airlines actually did when they introduced dynamic pricing. Peak prices went up, but off prices went down. The family with flexibility to go when nobody else is going actually got better deals than before. Dynamic pricing is bad news for families locked into school schedules during peak seasons. It's genuinely good news for families who can shift their dates around. Which one you are determines whether this is a threat to you and your vacations or an absolute steal of an opportunity. The families panicking about Disney prices are often the ones who haven't looked at what the actual out-of-pocket cost is when you plan smart. The sticker price and the real price are two very different conversations. Also, and this one genuinely surprised me, Disney attendance was actually down slightly in 2025 compared to the year prior, which sounds like bad news for the company, but for families who went, it meant shorter lines, better availability, and less crowd experience than they've had in years. The people who got scared off by the headlines missed one of the best years in recent memory to actually be at the parks. The average wait times in Disney World in September 2025 dropped to around 24 minutes, which is some of the shortest in years. Near walk-on conditions on rides that normally run upwards of 60 to 90 minutes. So we've talked about what actually happened to the prices and what Disney is doing about it strategically. Now here's the practical part, the thing that you actually came here for. Can your family still afford to go? And what does that actually look like for you? So let's dive into the math here, because I think this is what most people want to know going forward. The honest answer to can we afford Disney depends entirely on which version of Disney you're expecting to have. Because there are generally 3 different types of Disney vacations hiding underneath the same brand name. Version 1 is the premium trip. This one is in peak season. It's at a deluxe resort. Lightning lane passes every day for every person. Signature dining at night. All 4 parks. This is the Disney you see on Instagram. For a family of 4, this trip is pushing to the maximum amount of money between $12,000 and $20,000 all in, and that number makes me want to throw up. That version of Disney is moving out of reach for most middle-class families. I'm just going to say that plainly here, that if the trip you feel like you have to have, you're going to be waiting for a long time or going into debt to get. Neither of those feels like the move that we should be making here. The premium all-in Disney experience is now genuinely unaffordable for most middle-class families. That's just true. And I'm not going to deny that. Version 2 is the smart trip, though. Here, people take advantage of off-peak travel window times. Value or moderate resorts, 5 or 6 days. A Disney travel agent who finds pretty much every available discount that you could possibly get your hands on. Lightning lanes on just the biggest rides. Maybe one nice dinner on the trip instead of 5 nights. This trip actually exists for real families and is probably the one that most people should take advantage of. A well-planned Disney trip for a family of 4 on off-peak times with a value resort and probably around 5 nights can run between $4,000 and $5,000 all in. Still a significant amount of money, but not the scary number people threw around before. And here's the thing about that trip. The families who do this version consistently say it's more magical than the premium version because they went in with a plan. They weren't just stressed about money the entire time. They actually got to enjoy it instead of surviving it. This smart planned Disney trip is still absolutely accessible for middle-class families. It just requires more intention than just showing up and kind of winging it, per se. Version 3 is the budget trip. This is the Happy Place Studios specialty that I have taken advantage of many of times here. Dollar Tree finds, Five Below hauls, Disney at Home challenges, off-site stays, bring your own food, crowd calendar obsessions, free Disney magic that doesn't cost you a dime. This whole very channel exists right here because the magic is never just about the money. And look, even the budget trip to Disney World is possible. It just looks different than the brochure or the video that you saw online. And different doesn't mean worst. Some of the best Disney memories that I have with my family don't just happen on those expensive rides. The question was never can we afford Disney. The real question is which version of Disney can we afford right now? Okay, so that's the practical side of this whole adventure right now. But here's the part of this conversation I actually want to land on. Because there's something going on with Disney right now that worries more than any ticket price that exists at this current time. So here's my actual take on this. The ticket prices bother me. Yeah, 100%. The Lightning Lane situation bothers me. Watching FastPass disappear and get replaced with a paid system, yeah, that bothered me too. Not going to lie. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that none of that actually matters. But the one thing that actually worries me the most isn't any of that. It's this right here. Walt Disney built this place because he was sitting on a park bench watching his daughters on a merry-go-round, and he felt like that he was on the outside of their joy. He wanted to build something where parents could be in the magic together with their kids, not just on the outside of it. Not just wealthy families, not just high-income guests. Every family. He literally said, Disneyland is for everyone. We've all seen it. Disney's own CFO confirmed that the parks are increasingly dominated by higher income guests. The middle class isn't being pushed out by a policy decision, just by the price slowly moving beyond what they can actually manage. And that shift, if it continues, doesn't just hurt the families who can't afford to go. It'll eventually hurt Disney themselves. Because the thing that makes this brand bulletproof isn't the rides or the characters or even the movies. It's the fact that millions of families across multiple generations have an emotional connection to it. You go as a kid. You go with your kids. Your kids go with their kids. Price an entire generation of middle-class families out of that experience, and in 20 years, you don't have a brand that means something to everyone, sadly. You have a luxury experience that means something to the wealthy, and that's a fundamentally different business and a fundamentally different legacy than what Walt wanted or built. Disney's greatest assets isn't its parks. It's the emotional connection that it has with us, regular families across generations. The moment that connection becomes a luxury, the magic starts to erode from the inside. Now, I genuinely think Disney knows this. The discounts, the off-peak promotions, the CFO talking about wanting families to come back multiple times. That feels like a company trying to thread a needle. Charge premium prices to the people who will pay them while keeping the door open just enough for everyone to squeeze in. Whether they get that balance right is honestly one of the most interesting business questions in entertainment right now. And as Disney families, we have a say in it. By going when it makes sense for us, by planning smart, by not letting the sticker price scare us away from something that actually matters to our families. So here's my actual answer to the question. Is Disney pricing families out forever? For the premium experience, honestly, yeah, kind of. The version that Disney is getting harder to access for regular families, and the trend isn't going in the right direction, as we can tell. But for the smart version, the planned version, the version where you do the research, go at the right time, use the right resources, and show up with a real plan, that trip is still absolutely there for all of us to take advantage of. It just requires a little more intention than it used to. And maybe that's not the worst thing, because the families who plan the best trips are almost always the ones that get the most out of them. Disney is getting more expensive, period. The magic is not getting cheaper, but the magic was never really about the price, and it never will be. Don't let the headlines talk you out of the trip. Let them simply sharpen your plan. Drop in the comments, are you still going? What's your strategy right now for your next vacation? I genuinely want to know what the other Disney families are doing, because I think we can all learn from one another. This isn't just me knows all. And look, if this video fired you up about actually making your next Disney trip happen, I put together the most complete Disney planning framework that I have ever built. 4 letters, every mistake a family can make, everything you need to know before you book a single thing. It's called the Trip Video, and it's probably the most useful thing on this channel right now if you're actively planning a trip or thinking about one. And I'll link it right here, so go watch it, and I'll see you in the next one.